Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Happy Saturday morning. Welcome to our real estate investment series preview presented by the National Black MBA Metro New York chapter. My name is Norval Barrington. I'm the VP of Communications for the chapter. We'll get started in about 1 minute. We're excited to have you here. We're going to talk about a lot of various options, a lot of various portfolio previews to our real estate series. And shortly, I'll introduce our guests. Just some housekeeping rules. If you can use the chat feature, if you have any questions, we'll give you an opportunity throughout the presentation, or I'm sorry, at the end of the presentation, to ask specific questions for our host, our moderators, and our speaker today. Again, we're gonna get started in about 1 minute. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is a wonderful opportunity to get into the real estate industry, and more importantly, it's the time for you to invest in this particular time for growth opportunities. Again, use the chat feature. We'll get you in terms of questions shortly, and we will ultimately get started in about 1 minute. We also ask that if you know individuals that are looking to find out more about real estate investment opportunities, we ask you to send the Ticket Falcon link to them so they can learn more about how they can be a part of something that's going to be, we believe, phenomenal and life-changing as well. Okay, again, my name is Norval Barrington, the VP of Communications for the Metro New York chapter of the National Black MBA. Welcome to our real estate investment series. This is going to be a preview of our 12-week real estate investment series, which is going to host many speakers, instructors, experts in the field. I have the proud honor and opportunity to introduce the newest directors of the Metro New York chapter, Larissa Longchamp, Vonetta Hawkins. These two ladies are no stranger to our chapter, but officially we want to welcome them as directors of our chapter, and they will be leading this conversation. So without further ado, I turn over to Larissa and Vonetta.
Thank you, Norval. Hello, everyone. Happy Saturday. Yay. So we are super excited to kick off this real estate investment series and really talk about growing wealth through real estate and getting everyone involved. So I always like to say, whenever I'm talking about investing in real estate in any way, whether it's home ownership for your primary residence or you're just looking to invest and to grow, I say, let's start off with giving yourself a round of applause. Yes, because you just took the first step into building wealth and building a legacy for your family. So Larissa and I'll just turn it over to her to do a quick introduction. For myself, I'm super excited, number one, to be a director on the Black MBA, and just really super excited to bring this session and this series to the masses, to really help build Black wealth, Black legacy, and just growth within our communities. So been in the industry forever around real estate, and just really excited to kick this off today and be in all of you guys' presence. So Larissa?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Happy Saturday. Happy beginning of spring. I don't think it's a coincidence that we're doing this as spring begins, because spring represents new beginnings. My name is Larissa Longchamp, and I have 17 years of mortgage lending experience, and so I'm happy to be here. And what we really hope to provide with this series is not just information, but actionable information. So, as we all know, especially in the virtual world today, there's a lot of information out there, but what we really want to do is bring you information that you can apply, and tools and resources that you can use to really become active and interested in real estate. So that's our goal, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you to Norval, thank you to Vonetta, thank you to Sherkera, and thank you to everyone for joining.
Norval, do you have the presentation? We want to just get started and really just kick off what this series is going to be about. This is a 12-part series, and really giving you guys the tools that you need to be able to grow within this market. A lot of people reach out to us all the time about investing in real estate and where do they get started. And, we felt that this was a great opportunity to walk you through a journey on all the various different tools and things that you will learn and you will need to know as you go through this process. And then we also have a speaker here today that's going to actually talk to you about their journey, and we're so excited about that part, because it's a real person that had real experiences that kind of maybe even started off like you. So this is just the beginning of our series. Larissa, did you want to add anything just so people can kind of get an understanding?
Right, you touched on it perfectly. So what we'll do in the next couple of slides is take you through exactly what's going to be covered in the series. In today's preview, what we're doing is working with our Josh Sherkera, who is an experienced investor. And through her lens, we'll take you through some of the topics that are going to be covered in the series.
Next slide, please.
So in today's very competitive real estate market, one of the first things that you should really understand is how to structure a competitive. So one of the first things that we'll cover in this series is structuring the deal, or how to make an offer. So there are a few different things. There's the fact that you might want to know exactly how to make an offer competitive enough to really appeal to the property seller. There's also a difference in making an offer on a property that you plan to live in versus a property that you're going to use for investment. So the question is, how competitive do you want to be, or how aggressive do you want to be? So in the first session, we'll talk about how to successfully structure an offer that will win you the deal. The property, week 2. So, again, we're talking about investing. So there are all different types of options. There are single-family homes, there are multi-family homes. You can invest in residential real estate, or you can invest in commercial real estate. So are you looking at, just one unit, one tenant, or are you looking at a storefront with multiple tenants? So there are different things to consider there. And based on what your investment goals are, we'll talk more about what types of properties there are and how to look at them. In week 3, we'll talk about ownership structure. So there again, what are the advantages? Did you know that not only can you purchase a property under your name privately, but in some cases, you may purchase the property under the name of a corporation. And what are the reasons for that? What are the benefits? What are the advantages? So we'll compare those, and we'll bring professionals on to talk about different ownership structures. You're on mute. Vonetta, you're on mute, so.
I'm going to talk about once I get off mute, I'm going to talk about something. I kept looking at Larissa's face like, what is happening? Anyway, so I'm going to speak about the money. So the money is an actual 3-part series. And what you see on the screen right now is week 4, and it talks about hard money lenders. Norvell, go to the next page, because I want to just have them all together and so they can see. So week 5 is part 2, and it's about soft money, and week 6 is traditional lenders. So there's a huge difference in when you have different financing options when you're thinking about investing. And some of the big things and the big challenges that we see, or just so that you can really understand how do you get the financing that you need for your investment journey, is a lot of different things to consider. So with that being said, when we thought about doing a financing session, we wanted to give you guys all of the different types of avenues in which you can utilize for financing. So hard money, and all of them have like different uses for your actual journey. So when we think about hard money is those lenders that are going to be able to close in maybe a 10-day time frame. They don't care about what your income is, what your assets is. All they care about is the property. However, they also might require a larger down payment, maybe a 30% down payment. So from higher down payments, they might even have higher interest rates. They normally have a short type of term. So maybe it's a 1-year term on your purchase, but those lenders are going to be able to get you in, get you out, and get you on to that next property. And that's something to consider, especially depending on your financial structure. Maybe your income can't carry some new debt, or maybe your assets or your credit isn't all the way, sufficient to be able to get different type of lending. So that hard money lender is really all about the property and not necessarily about you. The soft money lenders, same thing around, you're going to be able to move through the process maybe in a 30 to 45 day time frame. And with them, the terms might be a little bit longer than that 1 year. So maybe you'll have a 10 or 15 year type of term with that soft, even 30 year. They even go up to them with different types of options. That's not the screen, but they go up with different types of options. And then just from a documentation perspective, they do sometimes look at your income. They do sometimes look at what your credit looks like, but their process and their terms might not be as easy as the hard money. So kind of like the middle of the road. And then those traditional lenders, those are your normal banks that you might go to, the larger lender where you're going to have to go through all of the income and asset verification. They're going to look at the benefits of the property, and they're going to look at the benefits of you as an investor. And even some type of deals you can't even go to for a traditional lender, such as if you wanted to fix and flip. Traditional lenders don't offer that type of financing. So you got to go back to maybe those hard money or soft money lenders to kind of be in that middle of the road. So we really just wanted to take a time to be able to educate you, bring in some real live people, bring in some investors, bring in some of those lenders so that you can really fully understand the different product suite that they have, and then look at your individual picture and see how your picture fits into that product suite.
Great. So moving on to, go back one slide. Thank you. So moving on to week 7, we'll talk about the numbers. Part of the success of being an investor in real estate is going to be making the numbers work. So we'll look a little bit more closely at the rent roll, how to really analyze a property and how to analyze the potential for rental income, and how to make sure that fits in with your investment goals, whether it be short-term or long-term. Following right up on the numbers, the next week we'll talk about leases and legalities. So just getting the property is one thing, but many people, whether you're purchasing a property for the first time or not purchasing a property for the first time, you may be becoming a landlord for the first time. So that comes with a whole other set of things to understand. So how to properly structure a lease. So what type of leases you should be looking at. There are differences between commercial tenants and between residential tenants. So what are the laws around, evicting a tenant if it becomes necessary, or what are the terms that you would put into a lease for a residential or commercial lease. So we're going to look more closely at leases and the legalities.
All right.
It's about syndication. So syndication is forming an investment group. So coming together with a group of people to invest. So that's one way to approach a larger investment opportunity. So we'll look more closely there at syndication, what it is, what it looks like, how it works, and what are the benefits of syndication.
Awesome, awesome. Week 10. So week 10 is going to talk about where to buy. So guys, when you think about where we live at, we are in the New York and New Jersey area. And these areas are some of the highest areas to purchase a property in the country. So understanding what's going to fit your financial picture, where can you buy? What are the different nuances of buying in other states outside of the state in which you live in? And what's going to be the best way to get you into investing? So, if you're in New York, the average prices in New York is $400,000. Do you want to buy a $400,000 investment property as your first property? Or maybe do you want to buy something in Florida where maybe the average purchase price is $150,000? So it's a huge difference, but what are the nuances of buying out of state? How does your property get managed? Who assists you when things go wrong and tenants needs to be assisted and properties aren't running right? Who assists you? What are the legalities? Do you need an attorney? Do you need title work? what really happens when you're buying out of state and what's going to be the best thing for you. So that's what we're really going to cover in that where to buy session. And then property renovations. Oh my goodness. Whether you're doing construction on your own personal house or construction on an investment property, you have to really think of what are the needs and what are the wants. You know, an investment property is not where you're going to live at. So when you're thinking about doing renovations and doing upgrades on investing on properties that you're investing in, you know, how far are you going to go? Do you need to just have it looking beautiful enough to be able to rent it? Or do you need to spend all the luxury money on having luxury upgrades and things? So that property renovation piece is really, really important. And then what are the nuances from getting your permits approved? When you're doing renovations on properties, sometimes those renovations require permits that have to be approved through the cities or through the towns. So what does that process look like? Because think about it like this. If you buy an investment property and you're in an area where the typical permit time can take a month, 2 months to get permits done, and that gives you the approval to do the investment, you have a loan against that property and it's going to cost you some money to make those loan payments while you wait to get those permits done. You have to factor all of that into your business and into your process. So we're going to go really in deep, bring in some professionals to kind of talk about that piece and give you some tools that you need. Now, the last section is the property tour. This is going to be so fun and we're super excited. Norvell danced into it. Yes. Yes. So the property tour is going to be, we're going to do a real live tour to an investment property. Now, listen, I'm that person that don't go outside. So yes, we will be safe. We will do it safe as possible. And even if that looks like we take people in different groups and go out and visit different properties, but there will be a wonderful property tour at the end. Worst case scenario, if COVID is acting too crazy, it might have to be virtual, but we just want to say right now, our goal is to go out and actually visit some real life properties. And so that you guys can, walk through and really understand, what do you look at? Walking into a single family or walking into a multi-unit is different than walking into a commercial space, such as a warehouse or a commercial condo that can be used for a medical facility. So you want to know what to look at when you're in these properties. So we're excited about that grand finale of the property tour, and that will kind of just bring it all together. So that's what the series look like. We're super excited to be able to bring the series week by week, a 12-week program. Definitely want everyone here to sign up. And Norvell, you can take that off. And what we're gonna go do now is dun, da, da, da. We are going to bring in Sherkera Green, and she is an amazing financial expert in the industry and a real life person that has gone through her own investment journey and is a boss lady in the market. So Sherkera, I just want to give you a moment to just introduce yourself. We're super excited to have you here, but let me just give you a moment before we jump into the panel discussion and just let you introduce yourself.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Such a pleasure to be here. And I want to thank all of you for inviting me. I'm extremely humble, extremely grateful. And just to think about what we've been through in the past 13 months, I don't know about you, but I woke up this morning, I just feel so grateful to be alive. So thank you for having me here. A little bit about me. My name is Sherkera Green. I've been in banking for over 17 years. I'm currently at JP Morgan Chase as an executive director. I lead a team of professionals that specialize in helping our clients build, protect, and grow their assets. I manage a team of over 200. I have everything from World Trade Center to 5th and 21st in Manhattan. Previously, I worked with Vonetta at Wells Fargo for 16 years. And I'm just really excited to be here. I never thought that I would be in banking. I actually was going to school for journalism and broadcast. And as I was paying my way through college, I decided to waitress. And as I was working at the Olive Garden, I got sat a table one Saturday lunch shift. And it was two ladies. They were from Alaska. One was visiting, one had relocated here. And it was the worst shift you can think of. I mean, we didn't have any breadsticks and we didn't have any salad dressing. And who goes to what do you go to Olive Garden for? For the breadsticks and the salad dressing.
That's tragic.
Well, long ago, I got sat these two ladies. I just kept them, wine tasting. I brought them an appetizer. But at the end of that dining experience, she left me her business card. And she said, your service was impeccable. If you ever need a job, call me. And so that semester, they actually changed the policy and you had to pay up front for tuition for that semester. And I just didn't have it. And so I called her up and I took her up on her opportunity. And lo and behold, I currently hold the seat that she was in at that time. And so you just never know how everything comes full circle. And here I am, and I'm just really grateful to be here. So thank you, Vonetta.
Yay, 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 yay. Listen, we never know what path God puts us in. He brought those ladies there to Olive Garden, and look at you bossing right now in that same role. And yes, without the breadsticks, stop the madness, close the building. Yeah. Well, definitely welcome. Loving the seat that you're in. It's always great to see a beautiful Black woman holding an executive level at in any industry. So kudos to all that you do in the banking space. So we really wanted to kick off this. We have some great questions. And guys, when we spoke with Sherkera and Larissa and I was putting this together, we really wanted to tie in her experience to the series. So you'll see as we go through the questions with her, they really dig deep into her experience, but also really talks about the journey of the series. So at the end, you'll be able to see you too can be just like she has and has risen in the investment space. So Sherkera, I'm going to start with the first question. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how did you get into home ownership and investing in real estate?
So I found myself about 5 years ago going through just a life-changing experience, having gone through a divorce. And I have two beautiful little girls, Kayla and Lear, they're 10 and 13. And I just found myself really asking, what kind of legacy do I want to leave behind to my children? Having been raised by a single parent in an urban community, I wanted to leave them. I want to make sure that I'm preparing them for the future, but also that I leave them with wealth, right? Something that I'm not familiar with, that wasn't passed down in my family. And so as I began to go on this journey, I started to write down my goals. And I said, what is it that I want to do? And how can I get started? And so I decided, you know what, I'm going to start investing into real estate. I wound up going down to North Carolina to visit my aunt. And during that visit, I met a contractor, African-American male who owns, at the time, it was called Wade Journey Homes. Very successful. I was very impressed by just his professionalism, his team's professionalism, but his ability to explain things and just kind of walk me through the different steps. And so while down there, he carved some time out for me. We went and we looked at some opportunities that he was going to have. Basically, what he would do would buy the lots and then his team would build on the lots. And so as we began to look at different pricing, the numbers, I couldn't believe it. And I knew that investing in New Jersey or New York would be typically very expensive, not so much to get in the home, but the taxes are super expensive up north, as you guys know. And so in North Carolina, my taxes, and which I know we're going to get into later, is only $1,100. But so that was one of the reasons why I was like, I need to think outside of the box. I've always been just thinking, to purchase where I am or where the areas where communities where I'm familiar with. And so that's really just how I got started, Vonetta.
I love it. I think one of the key things I pulled from that was you set a goal. Sometimes we all talk about, I want to do something, but until we actually set a goal and have something in which we can actually reach and attain, it just sticks as a hope and a prayer and a dream and a wish. So good that you set these goals out and clearly have started and it has achieved several of them so far. So awesome. Thank you for sharing.
So Sherkera, one thing that I just picked up on listening to your response is that there's a theme here. So you weren't born a real estate investor, but you also didn't just stumble into it. So it sounds like at every step of the journey, you've been intentional and you've made plans. So
Mhm.
along that same vein, can you tell us about what type of properties do you own? And also probably just as important or more importantly, what was your strategy for deciding on what type of property you were going to?
Awesome. Great question, Larissa. So as I began my journey, I started to think what makes sense. And I'm a super conservative investor. I need to sleep good at night. That's something that's extremely important to me. I need peace of mind. And so I looked at going with a multi-unit and then versus going with a single family unit. I selected to go with the single family unit for many different reasons. So one would be the pricing. My mortgage on one house is only $500. If God forbid I don't have a tenant in that home, I can pay $500. Now, I might not be brunching that month, or I might not have a new pair of shoes, or, but $500 is reasonable versus if I have a multi-unit, which more than likely you're going to have a bigger payment. So there's a bigger risk. Yes, you make more and there's more, income that you have going in, but there's other ways that I was able to get around that gave me that peace of mind for me. Again, as you're making your decision, you want to kind of go with what are some of the pros and what are some of the cons. Some people love multi-units, and I'm not here to, talk down on them. It's just what worked for me at the time and how I got it. The other thing is too, like if there's an issue with one tenant, if you got a 3-family, that sometimes can sprinkle down to the other 2 tenants. So just dealing with one person at one property and structuring them out just worked for me. So that's why I went with that decision.
Awesome. I love it. I think, I guess maybe one thing we didn't ask in the beginning was how many properties do you own, and where, you talked about you bought the one in North Carolina. Where are they at?
So I'm currently up to 7. I have
Yay.
3 in North Carolina, 2 in Georgia, Macon, Georgia, North Carolina. I guess I should say the cities. The first one is in Greensboro because I have family in Greensboro. The other one is in Winston. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Winston-Salem. Actually, 2 of them in Greensboro, 1 in Winston-Salem, and then the 2 in Georgia are in Macon. And then I currently have my duplex that I'm renting here in New Jersey, and then my owner occupied that I live here in New Jersey with. So it's total 7.
And then why, why out of state? Why I know you talked about, that the prices and the taxes are out here are very high. So how are you, if you needed to get any work done on those properties, how are you handling that since they're all so far?
So I do use a property management company for the ones that are out of state. To me, it's not passive income if it requires any of my time, which I'm very limited doing a lot of things. So with them being out of state, the property management company that I use is awesome. They literally do everything. From the moment I don't even go to the closings, everything is done either virtually or, a mail by closing. They pick up the keys from the contractor. They go in, they take pictures, they measure my windows and purchase blinds and then install the blinds for me. They list the pictures online. They find applicants for me. They do a background check. They're also doing a credit check. And they narrow it down to however many tenants I ask them. I'm in applications, maybe like to the best 2 or 3 applications. And then they bring them to me and they allow me to select which applicant I prefer to go with. So like, for example, my most recent one that I just closed on in Macon, this was the last one. I had to choose between 3 different tenants, and I went with a young lady who was at her previous residence for 10 years. She didn't have good credit, but that's okay because it was mainly around like student loans and medical bills. But she showed that she had the ability to pay, wanted a bigger, bigger space. No liens, no judgments. And so I decided to go with her, but they do everything for me. They present the lease, they collect the payment, and then all I get is the direct deposit on the 15th of the month. So I'm very careful too. I like everything to be very organized, very clean, very structured. So I get statements for each different property. And that's it. Haven't had any issues so far.
So I love that comment that you made at the beginning of that, which was the comment about if it involves your time, it's no longer passive income. I love that. I think that really sort of captures exactly what you want to do, or how much of your time you want to invest, or how you engage people to help you out to make it to make the most of your time and your resources. I think also when people, I appreciate that explanation, because I think when people think about property management, people probably tend to think more like large apartment complexes and the people who handle things like repairs, but people may not realize that on a smaller scale, as a smaller landlord, you can still engage a property manager and exactly what they do and all the things that they can help you with. So again, going back to the time and the resources, if you're talking about how to save properties, you're not traveling back and forth every time there's an issue, or you're not the one personally dealing with tenants, and they're professionals and they know how to handle those.
Right. And evictions as well. They do everything. And you can structure your contract with them, whatever services you feel you're going to need from them. But yeah, they're awesome. I get a monthly statement. They send me an end of the year statement from my accountant. Very smooth transition.
I do like oh, I'm sorry, Larissa, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I do like the part that you mentioned just around taking the pictures. As a landlord, being able to show what the property looked like before they got in and take a picture of the property when they get out makes a huge difference. And I think sometimes people fail to do that initial part up front. So I did like that you mentioned that's something that they do is they have pictures or video of everything about the properties. So are all of your properties new?
Yes, so they're all new construction. And to your point, one thing I forgot to say, I just remembered when you said that. They go in and they do a semi-annual inspection and send additional pictures, and then an end of the year inspection, because I tend to do 2-year leases. I think when you constantly do a 12-month lease, it could be potentially too much turnover. So one of my requirements is that I prefer to have that tenant for at least a 24-month time frame. I'm sorry, and what was your other question?
No. That's good. That's good. I like that 24-month time frame. And you don't normally see that. People do have that 1 year, but stretching it out to 2 years definitely adds a little more value and ensures that you as the owner are going to be able to, get that rent for a longer period of time with that longer period of contract with the consumer. I love it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm more concerned about. Anything, as long as I don't have to come out my pocket, that's what I'm concerned about. Mm-hmm.
And do since they are away, just a side note, I didn't even think about this. So you've purchased in Georgia and in North Carolina. Do you always go and see your properties? Like, what does that look like? Are you traveling down there? Like when you had to purchase, like, I know they're new construction. What's that process?
No. So as the properties are being built, the contractor sends me updates. We have conference calls just here and there, not too overbearing, but they just like to keep you informed on where they are with the process. He'll send me pictures. Just, I like to be excited to see the journey. And that's it. I literally, the last couple ones, I haven't even physically gone to see them. I've done virtual walkthrough. But I have not physically stepped into any of them besides, honestly, the first two. The first two I did fly down because I was new. And then once I learned that I didn't have to be present, no more.
Wow. So you're not even going to, guys, listen to what she just said. She just said she owns 7 houses, 5 of them in which she's purchased out of state. And she's only physically seen 2. And so has purchased 3 properties out of state that she's never even stepped in and is making money from all of them. Drop that mic. I just dropped the mic, threw it over there and kicked it. Like, this is awesome. I love it. All right. So do you have a team of professionals that you work with, that you utilize on your purchases? And if so, kind of what roles do they play in your process?
So great question. No realtor is needed because again, I'm dealing directly with the contractor. It's new construction. So I don't even use an inspector. We do have a title company that we use. And this most recent one, I did have to loop in an attorney only because Georgia state rules have changed. And because of the amount of mortgage fraud that's taken place in Georgia, and I guess particularly Atlanta, now you have to have an attorney for them to send the docs to, and I did my closing with my attorney. But prior to that, I didn't need an attorney. They would just overnight the docs to me. I would get them notarized at my bank, sign them, overnight them back, and wire the money, transactions done. So that's pretty much my team. That's my team. I have a loan officer. So the contractor has a relationship with 3 different banks. If you use his bank of choice, they waive all of your closing costs. And this is on every single transaction, not just like a one-time deal or not just for a first-time home buyer. It's every transaction. If you use his lender, he waives all the closing costs. So I'm literally only coming to the table with my down payment.
That's awesome. That's awesome. You know, one thing you just listen, Larissa, before you go, one thing you mentioned is you don't have to pay for an inspector. So guys, I want you guys to understand that the mortgage, the journey into home ownership and into investing comes with a lot of different expenses throughout the process to be able to purchase something. And just listening to Sherkera's journey, so a lot of things from an expense perspective have been removed from her process. So she's not paying for an attorney. That can be a $1,500 expense. She's not paying for a home inspection because she's buying new construction. That can be a $400 to $800 expense, depending on the property, depending on where it's at. So right there, she's by her being intentional around the types of properties that she's purchasing, she has decreased her expenses by not having to pay for things such as attorneys or things such as home inspections. So this is, little things like that definitely add up, especially because she can use that money to be able to purchase, other properties in the future. So I like that piece on, having to, how your expenses are actually decreasing based off of the things that you do, that you're able to not have to be responsible for paying. So awesome.
Right.
And just to clarify, I want to make sure to clarify for everyone. In that instance, you were able to have those costs waived because you were working with a developer who was selling new construction. So a lot of times with new construction, because they want to get that property sold, they'll throw in those extra incentives. Now you might not get that type of those types of incentives if it's an existing property, but that could be, as Vonetta just said, that could be part of the strategy. If you choose to purchase new construction, that's the way to minimize the expense. So Sherkera, you just touched a little bit on the financing that you got working with that particular developer and with their preferred lender. Can you talk a little bit more about the different types of financing options that you use and how that sort of translated into each of these deals?
Yeah. So my very, very first home ever, right? I was, being that I'm working in the banking industry, I was aware that you can pull from your 401k without any type of penalty. So I would say like my very first home ever, I was able to use that towards my down payment. For this particular, for my investment properties, the first one I did as a second home. So with second home, because it's in a different state. So for example, you could live in New Jersey and live in North Carolina and be considered a snowbird is the terminology because of the weather. They gave me owner occupied pricing because it was a second home. So what that meant for me is I only had to put 3.5% down. So now if we're talking numbers, that first house was built from the ground up for $100,000. I put $3,500 down. My closing cost was waived, no other additional fees, all appliances. He adds all the appliances in. Actually, you know what? I apologize that now he does. That first time I had to purchase a refrigerator, which was what, $600? No worries there. But that's it. I literally came to the table with $3,500 and had a tenant in there before my first month's payment was even due. So the numbers, And so that's in terms of the down payment. If you want to talk about numbers, you know, the payment on that one was $497. And then I add in the 10% that I pay for the mortgage company, which again, for me, it's peace of mind. So I'm making roughly about $700 a month off of that one property. And I know some people might say, well, that's not a lot of money. But when you begin to get multiple properties going, now that adds up. And again, remember, it's about peace of mind for me. If I don't have a tenant in there, I can make that $500 payment on my own without feeling stressed or anything. And then for me, because I make a really good income, I'm not really concerned about getting a whole bunch of money. What I'm concerned about is what is that property going to appreciate in a few years from now? So if I hold on to it for 3-4 years and the market is hot, hopefully I can sell it when it gets to like 300 or 400,000. And then that's what I'm more concerned about.
And you know, along the point that you just made, you know, the $750 a month, just, well, I mean, that's great still. But the idea too is that, as you said, you may not be getting rich on that one property, but it's a first step. So it's a starting step to get you into it. And I just want to clarify too, when we talk about the second home financing, we don't mean second home like it's the second property that you're buying, but when we talk about second home financing, that refers to purchasing vacation. So that means that you bought it, it's not in the same area where you live, it's in an area where it's elsewhere, so it's a property that you use to travel and stay in sometimes, and you could rent it out maybe on a seasonal basis. When we talk about second home financing,
Correct. And the reason why I went with that option is because you are allowed, as long as you occupy the residence for quote unquote a minimum of 1 week per year, you can rent it out the rest and still get the pricing as a second home, which allowed me to do 3.5%. If I had listed it as an investment property, then I would have had to put 10% down. So now fast forward, right, to answer your question, the second and the third one that's in the same state, I can't list that as a second home because it's not a second home. I got to list that as an investment property. And with this particular bank, they allow me to put 10% down. So I'm coming to the table with $10,000 for each of those houses.
That is phenomenal. That is phenomenal. I think one thing I love that you touched on is, yes, you're getting $700 a month, and that's not, you know, millions of dollars. However, that equity is what's important. That equity that you're building in that property is going to allow you to leave that legacy for your girls. And I love them; they're precious. But that legacy is what you're going to be able to build. So think about this, people. So Sherkera just bought properties for $100,000, and in a couple of years, those properties can be worth $200,000 or even more. Because a lot of times when you're buying new construction, the property value increases faster, just because people now want to, once that area gets developed, people now want to be a part of that area. So where else are you going to get an investment and be able to have equity that you will have in a house? So huge advantage. And she only had this investment only cost her out of pocket $3,500. I think all of us could scrape together that, no matter where you have it at, and be part of that journey as well. So I love it. I love it. I love it. So I know you.
I wish I started way earlier. You know, like I wasted a lot of time and a lot of money because it was just information that, you know, I just didn't know. I didn't have. I didn't think that I can be an investor. So I wish that I had started sooner.
Listen, you know, the saying goes that I may not have come from a rich family, but a rich family gonna come from me. So that's the journey in which, you know, that you're definitely on. And that's the journey we want everyone to be, that's gonna be a part of this series. We want everyone to be on that journey, because we want you to see that, you know, listening to Sherkera, listening to somebody real life, and how she was able to be intentional about her actions. And because I want to say, Sherkera, it seems like because your first one was so simple, that it was like, why not do more? Why not do more and in a hurry?
Yeah.
But that's what it seemed like.
And then I started to think outside the box. I'm like, okay, what if a natural disaster takes place in North Carolina? Then like all my properties, I've been put all my eggs in one basket. Let me think outside the box. So then I started researching Georgia and Macon. A lot of people want to get into Atlanta. Atlanta's oversaturated right now. So think about the outskirts of, Atlanta. Mississippi is really hot right now. Like I just had an investor approach me about buying some property in Mississippi. There's a lot going on down there right now. So you want to kind of get in before the wave, but totally think outside the box. Like Texas, you could do. I know a lot of people are going to Baltimore. And Baltimore has some different rules. So you just want to do your homework and your research. But I have a girlfriend and she does most of her property. She has a whole block in Baltimore now. And she bought each one of her properties for $10,000, but the taxes on them are like $20,000. But what she does is she go in, she has her team and she rehabs them. So that works for her. She has family down there. She has uncles that can do that work for her that she can trust. So all just a matter of how much you do your homework and what you feel comfortable doing.
So when you did that research and you were looking at those different areas, how did you research? And then what kind of things were you looking at when you determined where it was that you wanted to?
Honestly, Google's my best friend. So I never even heard of Macon, Georgia before. I heard of Marietta because my granddad used to live down there. And of course, everyone knows Atlanta. And so I had to Google it and I looked at what's the medium range salary. I wanted to know what was the school system like. It's a very suburban, but up and coming. I wanted to look at what businesses were going to be coming in that city. I know Amazon is putting one of their colleges there. So I said, okay, this might be a place that I might want to invest in. And more importantly, I looked at what was the average rent to income that I could get in that particular city. You also want to look at like race, because that makes a difference. Are there children? Am I buying near a community where it's close to a school in case there's a couple that wants to move in and they are interested in the school system? Another thing is the type of home. So the two that are in Macon, Georgia, I specifically went with a ranch style home because I know a lot of older people retire and they want to go to the South and they love ranch properties because they don't want to walk up the steps. So my layouts in those, that it's a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom garage, but it's all on one level. And again, I listed it on Monday. By Friday, I had 15 applications. So if I ever want to go and sell that home, it's going to be easy because people love ranch style homes. So I, just kind of keep all of those things in mind as you're making your decisions.
And so I just want to mention something for our audience. This is something that we had talked about in this discussion. Sherkera just talked about the research and looking at sort of demographic information about a neighborhood, which is important if you want to understand the trends, you understand what's happening, and you want to sort of strategize on your investment. Do keep in mind that recently, due to fair housing issues, there have been a lot of new rules with realtors about what they can and can't tell you. So if you're looking at properties and you're looking at areas, realtors are very limited about being able to share demographic information about a neighborhood because the idea is that they want to make it fair and they want to make sure that they're not trying to sort of influence your decision. So it's important to do that research on your own because you may not be able to get much of the information from a realtor. It's not that they can tell you, but there are a lot of regulations that prevent them from giving information that could sort of steer a potential.
Yes.
And I agree, Google is your friend. So people, if you want to know about properties, you want to research some different areas, just Google where can you find new construction under 100,000 or under 200,000, whatever it is. Do your research and definitely be able to find out some more information within the specific market that makes sense to you. And as Sherkera said, that whole buying down south and buying a ranch, ranches are hot everywhere. They're just hot everywhere because, it's that one level. And even when you're looking, people that are doing fix it and flipping, it's great for them too. It's an easy one level piece of property that's easy to maneuver through. So definitely consider the different property types, which is one of the sessions in the series. And that I think is a little tidbit to it. We only have like 8 minutes left. And I want to just maybe ask one other question. So talk to us a little bit about your debt to income ratios. You're buying a lot of different properties. Is there anything that's, as you're continuing to get this financing from your lender, is there anything that's coming into play around your debt to income or reserves or anything like that that's kind of impacting your space as you continue to grow your portfolio?
So fortunately, I'm blessed that all of them are in my name, but I'm in a process of getting them transitioned into a trust account, an LLC, and then it's going to go into a trust. And the reason why is my accountant says you're exposing yourself too much. So God forbid if anything happens and a tenant sues me, they can have access to anything that's in my name. We don't want that. We want to limit as much liability as possible. So we're in the middle of transitioning them. But the reason why I put them in my name first is because it's easier to qualify for a consumer loan than versus qualifying for a business or construction loan. So I'll put them in my name first and then transfer them over. And none of them are like FHA. I know you have to do some homework because there are some loans that where, you know, once you purchase them, you can't transfer them into a business or LLC. So you definitely want to find out. And I do know for certain, I think FHA is one that does not allow you to do that. So for me, it's about getting into them for the cheapest way, the less way that I can. I'm hearing some. Okay, there we go. Thanks, Vonetta. Getting into the property as less expensive as possible, and then transitioning them into the LLC or the trust account. And then I just want to say this one point because I think it's really important to structure the properties out. So I never have one tenant lease due at the same time. So one, let's just say, you know, again, I do the 2-year lease, but I never want more than one person lease come and due at the same times because I may potentially have multiple tenants who may not be in the home. So that's one thing that I ask the property management company to always manage and make sure that we're being strategic about.
I love it. I love that. I love that structuring piece so that you're always moving as it relates to your income. It's not just stuck in that one space and everybody's coming due at the same time. That, you know, definitely, even if you I would even say, even if you bought properties that you bought 2 properties at the same time and the lease happened to come, you can even separate them by, you know, a month or so. And that can still work out for you. I like that part. I like it. Go ahead, Larissa. I'm sorry.
No, thank you. So just a follow-up to that, can you tell us if there, or maybe what there was that you sort of encountered through the process that you might not have anticipated, so something that you learned through the process that you didn't anticipate and had to manage?
So I would say one thing that stands out that I didn't anticipate is like, I trust the property management company, but this last one with the last 2 with Macon, I kind of got a little pushback from them. They thought that the rent that I was asking for was too high and that we might not get any applications. And I just said, okay, well, this is what I'm asking for. I want you to list it at this price. I felt confident that I can get it. It's new construction. And the reason why is there were other rentals in that particular area for the same amount of bedrooms and bathrooms that were cheaper, but they weren't new construction. And I trusted my judgment. I said, listen, if we don't get any traction, then I can go back and change it, right? Change the amount. And then again, we got 15 applications in 1 week. So I think just trusting yourself, trusting the process, taking risk are important, right? Again, it's scary because I'm not a part of the process and I'm kind of like a person that needs to be hands-on with everything. I think also being extremely like organized is important because I go back and I'm double checking what the property management company is doing on my downtime. And I keep everything separate. So there's a separate checking account for each account. And as the deposit comes in, the mortgage goes out, and now I'm not commingling any funds. So I would just say, I just try to be on top of things as much as possible. Even though I'm hiring them to do a job, I always just double check what they're doing as well.
And you know what, I also think that all that research that you did, being informed and being educated, probably put you in a better position to take that risk and be confident in that rent that you are looking for. So knowing that market, doing the research and being prepared, put you in a better position to say, well, I hear you, but this is where I want to be with the rent. And you know, you got the results from this, so you guys are supposed to be.
Exactly. And they were shocked too. So it was a learning for them too, to sometimes not always go with what the market's telling you.
Right, right.
I think you also recognize the fact that your properties were new, and a lot of the things, sometimes I think when we're looking to rent out our properties, it's not necessarily what's in the market right now. Those are your competitors. And if everybody in the market does not have a new construction and you do, then you know what? You should ask for that additional price point. So kudos to you for asking and definitely you know, getting that additional monies that you expected that you could, and doing that research. So this was awesome. We got a lot of things happening in the chat. It's like 2 minutes to 11, but I want to just do two things. Go ahead, Norvell, because you just came back on. Do you want to say something? I know I want to just respect everybody's time, but we do have a couple messages to deliver.
Absolutely. So for individuals now, I'm going to allow you to unmute yourself. And ultimately, we want you to ask any questions. We're going to take about 3 questions or so. In addition to that, if you have any questions that you want to take offline, what we're going to do post this call, we're going to actually send you only the registration for the upcoming real estate series, but also some additional tools additional information that will help in this process. Again, there's a lot of information that was given, but at this time, we'll let you unmute yourself and we'll let you ask any questions at this point in time.
Hi, I have a question. What are your thoughts regarding purchasing property where the owner is just has back taxes?
Good question. So I haven't personally encountered that yet. But I think that you want to find out how much are the back taxes, right? You can get that information from the city and from the township. And then what are the projected new taxes? What will it be? And what would that payment be? And just see if the numbers work for you. That would be my suggestion. Vonetta, I think that's more your area.
Yeah, I was going to say, so with you purchasing that property, Althea, you're not going to be responsible for those back taxes that current owner has. And you should definitely work through your attorney, work through your title company to make sure that there's no liens against that property that are not going to be, you know, satisfied. Because owners will attempt to sell their properties, and whether it's back taxes, it's judgments or liens that are against the property, it's homeowners association if they owe dues and they were in a townhome or a condo. So it could be a lot of outstanding debt that have liens against a property. However, those are not your responsibility unless you want them to be. And those should definitely be taken care of prior to you closing on that property. The great question.
Thank you so much. We'll go to Denise. Denise, you go unmute yourself.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you for this information. It was extremely valuable. I had a question regarding the new construction. Are you also purchasing the land, and how is that playing into your all-in budget?
So thank you, Denise, for the question. I actually just dropped the contractor's website in the chat if anyone's interested. It's centurycommunities.com. But so you leave a deposit. Your first deposit is $100. That's just to secure the home. After your application is taken with the lender, then you have to leave the remaining balance, which is $900, and that's to purchase the land. And then that's it. And that actually gets deducted from your down payment. So he does buy the land in order to start building on it. And then he just keeps that $1,000 in reserve until the property is done.
So you just allow, they are 100% in terms of site location and choosing the location and everything. And you go based on their recommendation?
So on their website, they'll show you the communities that they've built, the type of home, the number of bedrooms, bathrooms, the style of it, and you select which home you want. They're all virtual of images on the website because some of them are not physically built. But yes, it's where he owns or the communities that he's building, pretty much.
Got it. Thank you so much.
sorry. So also, Denise, I think there's a distinction here because this is a developer who's building a new construction community where there are also people who will work with a builder to build on land that they purchase, or they may purchase land and work with the developer to build one individual property on land. So I think in this situation,
Correct.
you're talking about a developer who's built a whole community and you're purchasing one home in that community.
Correct.
And then I'll also just add, Denise, there's also contractors where they may own the land and then you get the financing to just build the property. So you want to make sure, so Sherkera's scenario, it's an all-in-one. She's just buying the house that includes the land and everything all together. So that's, for me, that would be my recommendation, because sometimes you can get in with a contractor that might not be financially stable. When they want you to pay additional monies up front, it's because they might not have the money themselves as the contractor to be able to build that property without your financing. So having a strong contractor, even, Sherkera's lucked out. She has an amazing contractor that builder that she works with, but, doing your due diligence on the developer as well. So you want to make sure that you're looking into their background, seeing what you can find on Google or wherever, but checking them out as well before you just jump into working with the contractor. But you definitely want to have something where you're buying everything all encompassed, the land, the property, you're closing on a house, and if you close on any house that was built from the ground up. Great question.
We're gonna go to one more question here. Oh, thank you so much, Denise. I'm gonna go to one more question, then we're gonna go into some announcements. So from Anthony, Anthony asks, do you have any experience with Section 8?
So I actually just currently apply to do the Section 8 to have like a tenant, because what I'm doing is I'm renting out my duplex here in New Jersey. It's in Edison. And I'm basically like on a list. They'll send me some possible tenants who may be interested in. I do have friends that use Section 8. They love it because it's guaranteed income, but I also have heard nightmare stories where, sometimes you can't always know who is, what that person is going to turn out to be later on down the line. So you just, sometimes all money is not good money. You ever heard that phrase? It's guaranteed income, but then what kind of headaches am I going to have down the line with this particular person? So just got to weigh your options. What's more important to you?
And Sherkera, do you have any feedback on, in that process of looking for Section 8 tenants, do you have any feedback on what type of requirements they have for the property?
You cut out at the end. Any require?
Do you have any feedback on what kind of requirements they have for the property for you as the landlord?
So when I completed the application, I just had to disclose, I think number of bedrooms, number of two, so like my basement, my outdoor area. They just really asked a lot of questions around the land and the property itself so far, where I am in the process.
And I'll just add, so I've owned 9 houses myself, on this journey, and I love my Section 8 tenants. Because especially now, guys, with the pandemic happening last year, my Section 8 money, I got my check. Like my check was there every month on time, the first of the month, they paid. So I love and adore my Section 8 tenants. I will say you can't discriminate against a Section 8 tenant. So if somebody has Section 8, you can't say, oh, I'm not going to give you the house because of it, because that's discrimination. But I will say, just to answer Larissa's question, do they require anything from the property? So like Sherkera was explaining, you go through a process yourself as a landlord, you have to give them documentation, but they do come and inspect the property. So they do an annual inspection on the property, and they're really just coming to make sure they make sure you have a fire extinguisher, they make sure you have the smoke detectors. So it's not an in-depth inspection. They make sure that everything is working, the water, the toilets, and all that good stuff. But it's a pretty easy inspection that they do. And again, it's guaranteed money. I think definitely want to look at the tenant themselves to kind of understand the tenant and their background. My most recent tenant lived in her house in her prior residence for 7 years. She had 4 kids, and I was like, oh yeah, sign me up for somebody like that, because clearly she pays her Section 8 money and she has a long length of staying in a house. And I said, Sherkera, I might just steal your recommendation. Her lease is due in August, and I'm about to switch it to a 2-year. Oh no, but Section 8, I'm sorry, I wish I could, but Section 8, you can't. You can only do a 1-year lease, so you can't do a more than a 1-year lease with Section 8. But Sherkera, I'm stealing it from my other tenants, so I appreciate you.
I could quickly, Larissa, add one more thing. I know everyone likes to do Section 8, but something else you could do is you could list your property with insurance companies. So if there's someone who has been displaced from a fire, you know how they'll put that home up, that family up in a hotel. Now the big thing is they want to put them in a home to kind of keep their lives consistent. And you can list your property with an insurance company, and they pay the length of the time that the person's going to stay there up front, literally. So if that person, they're estimated it's going to take 6 months for that them to rebuild whatever happened with the fire, they cut you a check for 6 months up front. And these are good quality people because they're already homeowners, and they're going to take care of your home because they know what it's like to be a homeowner. They just unfortunately are displaced right now. So that's another idea. Again, thinking outside of the box.
I love that. That's more than an idea. That's a process. So thank you for that. I think, Norvell, we were moving on to announcements. So unless we have any questions, any other questions?
So we'll let you, Larissa and Vonetta and Sherkera get the last word before we go to announcements. So we'll go to our special guest, Sherkera.
So no, I just want to thank you again. This is great. I hope that someone, took something from this and was inspired, but you could definitely do it. You don't need a lot of money. That's a big misconception out there. Think outside of the box. I think that's the big takeaway today, right? Don't always think that you have to do it right here in your hometown. Look at other states, do homework, do research, and let's continue to build legacy. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Larissa, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, I agree with that. Let's continue to build legacy. I love that. Candidly, I'm learning myself on this through this series, so I appreciate all the information you shared today. One of the things that I think I took away was it's a process. So to your point, you don't have to have a whole lot of money, but you can take steps, strategic steps, and build step by step, and that's what it's about, building wealth and building legacy. So thanks for Sherkera, thanks for everything that you shared with us today, and thanks to everyone for being on. And again, this is just a preview. So as we get into the series, we're going to get more in detail into these topics. But what we hope is that today you got an idea of what's involved and what information we'll be sharing.
Awesome. Thanks, Sherkera. We definitely appreciate you. Everybody, this was great information. I think Sherkera, when we started to put this event together, we wanted to bring somebody that was real life. She's gone through this journey. She's gone through these motions, and she is a boss lady and super successful. And I loved all the things that she was able to share. And also, I just want to say, guys, if you want to make this dream come true for yourself, you want to get into investing, then you definitely want to be a part of this series. We're going to have more teachers like Sherkera, mentors like her. Look, we didn't even tell her yesterday, but she's about to be one of our mentors in the group, and we're going to bring her back for a session. Like, she's officially inducted into the Hall of Real Estate Investment Series. Andrew, the president, and Norvell will second that notion. But we're definitely gonna have her back, and definitely hope that you guys all saw the value in this event and really want to be a part of the series. So thank you. Looking forward to connecting with you all.